Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm gonna need it. I tried playing a little yesterday. Not so good. All right, so we got a Nearpod going today. So if you guys could go to the Canvas page and pull that up, we're gonna get students here on the Zoom going. I'm counting down the days to the last Zoom. It's exciting because I'm not next year, hopefully. Actually, you know that they're doing a virtual academy. Anyone see those emails? So students that want to do a virtual academy, there's an email sent out. So if I probably should be talking to people at home, but the email sent out, parents need to respond by the 14th. If they do that for going all virtual next year instead of being in person, I think everybody else will be in person. I don't know about masks yet or anything like that, but it'll feel like a normal school year, hopefully, which would be nice. So just a reminder to those of you on Zoom, good morning and happy last regular Tuesday of the school year. There was an email sent out, I think yesterday or the day before, saying that if you want to go all virtual next year, you need to have that filled out by May 14th. Today is May 11th. So that would be 3 days from now. All right. Next thing I wanted to do, I've got a question to kind of start class off with. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here. And for those of you in person, I want to show you this as well. So if you could, I've given you a couple minutes to play around on your cell phone. If you could remove your headphones, please, everybody, and put your cell phones away. That would be super helpful. So I know you're actually paying attention. All right. So when I go to modules here, couple things. First off, this Nearpod, this is for today. And then below this, you're going to see the World of History Semester 2 Final Exam Study Guide. So when I click on this, basically, I'm only testing you after what Mr. Renshaw taught on the final exam. Okay. We're going to talk about the final exam policy here in a little bit, but you'll see that a lot of what I'm going to go over in the next 3 days is going to be on this final exam. Okay. So for those of you that are feeling like you want to shut down and not do anything this week, like I said, I think at least 10 or 15 of these terms are the terms that I'm going to be going over here in the next couple of days. So feel free to download this. For those of you in class, I could probably make a copy and hand it out tomorrow if that makes your life easier. If you want a paper copy, is that yes? All right. I'll go ahead and download that. For those of you at home, there's a lot of you in this class. You want to definitely upload this and just figure out what you know and what you don't know and be ready to ask questions over the next couple of days. And I'll try to get this done Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll see how fast we can move in class. All right. And that way, we're going to talk about final exams in a little bit. Okay. But that way you can fill stuff out by hand if you feel like it, or add spaces, all that kind of stuff, and put notes underneath it if you want to. All right. The next order of business then is I do have a Nearpod that I want to work off of today. And this first question is just to see exactly what Zariah was talking about, and that is how confused you are about final exams, because I think there's a lot of confusion out there from what I've heard right now. So everybody could. I'm going to put the link here in the chat function, and I'll also it's also on Canvas as well. if everybody could get on this now. So I'm very curious about what people think. So the code is join.nearpod.com. Click on YXKED. Okay, YXKED. Also a reminder to this class, we will not be meeting on Friday. Everybody hear that? Okay, so the last day for you to turn work in is Thursday, if you're gonna turn anything in. And I will not see you Friday. You'll be in your period 2 final, all of period 1, 2, and 3 on Friday. Okay. And then for some reason they still have asynchronous Monday. I have no idea why. We have nothing scheduled or planned. What's that? I mean, I guess, but let's talk about the final exam policy. So some of you are joining here. Mariah, good morning to you too. Next year, that Starbucks chiller you got to get that earlier, because I don't think they'll be as nice next year. But you got a few days left of that. So I'm going to go ahead and start this activity. I got 23 of you. Mariah, if you could get on soon. So the question is here, do you know what the final exam policy is? Question mark. If so, can you explain it in a short sentence? I want to see what everyone thinks. I guarantee we're going to get some different answers. So I want to make sure everybody's on the same page. Okay. So take a minute and a half, try to formulate an answer here. And I'm going to take 10 minutes for virtual students and in person. I'm going to hide the names too. I don't. All right. Let's see what we've got here. We got only benefit. I think it's optional for those with passing grade. All right. So 88% of you. All right. So there's a lot of different answers here. Don't cheat. I'm sorry. That's good. All right. Let's seriously, everyone, can we have eye contact real quick here? I want to get off your phones and actually listen for a second. So we have a hodgepodge of answers here. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and share a couple that I want to just kind of address. So let's go ahead and share this. You see this on your screen? It says the final can only boost your grade. If you fail a final, it won't hurt your grade, but if you pass, your grade can go up. So the word pass is relevant, is like if you have a B and you get a B on the final, you're still going to get a B in the class. If you have an F and you get a D on the final, you automatically get the credit, so you don't have to take it in summer school or anything like that. Okay. That's one part of it. Now unshare this though, and then go to a different part. Let's see this. There we go, right here. Let's share this one. If you have a bad grade, taking the final will help you, but don't have to take it if you're okay with what grade you have. Everybody see that? Again, so that is really relative to what you want to do. My expectation as a human being would be that if you have anything under an A, you take it, see what you can do. If you do well, brings your grade up, that's good, right? If you obviously have an F or things haven't gone as well as you want to this semester, life happens. Take the final, see if you can get the credit, and at that point, make sure you get what you need to do so you don't have to take in summer school or be in freshman classes as a sophomore next year. Okay. So the goal is try to get everybody into their sophomore year with the credits that they need so we can get back to a little bit of normalcy. All right. So that's why they're doing this. And most people said the right thing. Hopefully that brings a little bit of clarity to everyone. Anybody have any questions on Zoom or in person? Seriously, if you're any confused, I want to clear this up for you today so that all the rest of your teachers don't have to do this. Anybody? Yes. Excuse me? Summer school is completely optional. I think you have to pay for summer school. So it's the only reason you would take summer school is if you maybe didn't pass a class or two over last semester or this semester, or you want to get certain classes out of the way, like PE. Like some people don't like to do PE during the school day because they don't want to get all sweaty or something, or they don't want to swim during the day. Did you have to swim in PE this year? Oh, everyone got lucky. Usually you have to swim in PE and then get out of the pool and try to get your hair dry and all that stuff and dress before you get back to class. That can be annoying. We had a question here in the chat. The question is it optional for all classes? Optional is not, I can't say optional. It's more like your discretion. How's that sound? Like I said, if I didn't have an A in a class, I would take it. If I had an A, I would probably elect to study for something that I didn't have an A in. Okay. Let me clear up one more thing. Nobody asked. The study sessions are like 2.5, 3 hours. I mean, the final block and the study session. Do you have to go to those if you have an A and you're not taking the exam? Do you know? Hi. Is that from a student? If you want to just go ahead and put that on that desk, I can take care of it later. Thank you so much. No problem. So, last thing here, if you, excuse me. If you if you aren't going to come, because you want to stay home and study or whatever, you do need to call in, okay, or else attendance will mark you as absent. Does that make sense, everyone? Okay. We're going to get moving here. So I got 26 of you on this. We're going to check for participation. So make sure you're putting answers in. I don't have a lot of questions. We kind of needed to go back. And again, some of this is on the final exam, most of it. So need you to do your best here to pay attention. You can take notes, whatever you want. I have a sheet on there from last week, or you can just write some stuff down. Can anybody explain to me what this whole thing called the Maginot Line was? Before right when World War II started. Luke, real loud, please. All right, so the trench system that the French used. That's a good start. So this whole thing called the Maginot Line, if I go back one slide, this was, go back one more. This was the series of basically bunkers underground that were meant to stop Germany from invading France. And did it work or not? I can't remember how far we got. Did it work, Tim? No. Okay, so if you look up here, just a reminder that the Germans went around the French line exactly like they did in World War One. They did the whole. Remember in World War One, this is on the final, so that's why I'm telling you. The German plan was called the Schlieffen Plan to go around France through Belgium. Well, they did the exact same thing. And this time, the French, all of the money that they spent, which was they didn't have a lot, was totally worthless. All right. So, most of you, I think we ended up right around here. Take a look at these pictures. What's going on in these pictures? Anybody on Zoom? Can you tell me what's going on here? If you want to use the hand
The
raise function.
Germans took over Paris, France.
Yep. Yeah, so you can see Adolf Hitler, and then in the background you can see. Has everyone ever seen the Eiffel Tower before? It's one of the more overrated structures in history, but it's really cool. At like 10 o'clock at night, it lights up, and you can see it from basically everywhere around the entire city of Paris, which is a massive city. Lots of different neighborhoods, kind of like New York City almost. And then in the right, this is the Arc de Triomphe. It was like a monument built to Napoleon when he was in power, when the French had a lot of money. And here you see Nazi stormtroopers. And then this street is one of the most famous streets in the world. It's called the Champs-Élysées. The reason why it's famous is it's got a lot of like French art and different monuments on it. And you see the Nazi stormtroopers walking through and down the Champs-Élysées through the Arc de Triomphe. And it's symbolic of Nazi Germany defeating the French. So a quick question for you. This is going to help you process for the final exam. What was different about the German invasion of France in World War II compared to World War I? What was the difference? Okay, let's see if you can figure this out. Again, I'm looking for right answers, but I'm not going to judge you if you're wrong. Just want to see what you remember. All right. They had a lot more resources and France had little money left. The Nazi party ? That's pretty good. Even if you're not sure, put not sure. Put something in so you don't get points docked. I wasn't sure if anyone would get this correct or not. All right, so only 81% of you. The answer to this one was pretty basic, folks. There we go. Let's see this answer. All right, so I'm going to share this. They stopped like 20 miles away from France in World War I, but in World War II, they finally took over France. That's the difference. Okay. Why is that a big deal? Well, now they can invade Britain, or they could even try to invade the United States. The Germans could. You understand that? By taking France. So that's the difference. And they didn't stop 20 miles away from France in World War I. They were stopped. They couldn't go any further. In World War II, France didn't have enough men ready to fight, couldn't slow down the German war machine, the Blitzkrieg, and Germany just went in and took over. And so if you look at this map, where is that map? Look at this map. Did I delete that on accident? Yeah, if you look at this map right here, going back, within a year of the invasion of France, the Nazis led by Adolf Hitler had taken over all of Western Europe, okay, in a year. Is that a lot of time, Ethan? No. Again, so that's one of the why it's so popular in history to talk about it is no one wants to see this ever happen again. The next thing then that we're going to take a look at is, and that's on your final exam for sure as well, is after Germany defeated France, they set their sights on trying to bomb Great Britain, okay, with their air force called the Luftwaffe, in order to avoid having to have to invade Great Britain. Here's a historical trivia for you. How many times in history has Great Britain been invaded? 3 times? When? Anybody want to take a guess? Okay, they were invaded by the Romans. All right, that was number 1. Number 2, they were invaded by the Vikings. All right. And then the last time was someone of Viking descent named William the Conqueror in 1015 invaded from Normandy, which is, I'll show you where that is here, hopefully tomorrow. And that was the last time that anybody had successfully invaded Great Britain. It's very difficult because it's a small island. The English Channel that separates France and Great Britain is really, the water moves very quickly through it, making it, that's why when people try to swim across it, even though it's only 50 to 60 miles at one point, it's very, very difficult to swim across because the current is strong. There's a lot of rocks. Okay, the Spanish tried to invade Great Britain during the Spanish Armada in 1588 and failed. And so Hitler thought that over 3 million people would die if he tried to invade. So his game plan was to bomb them to smithereens. Okay, if you take a look at these pictures, okay, the left, that is a hospital burning. Okay, what's questionable? What is questionable about a hospital burning? Anybody want to take a guess on this one? Is it cool during war to target hospitals and apartment complexes? No, that's a no-no. You're supposed to bomb military sites or factories, okay? But instead, the Germans tried to get the British to quit. Remember the word called morale? So they literally bombed over 1 million pounds of bombs a day for 3 months straight. Okay. Come on in. There's a lot of people absent today. You can sit wherever you want, all right? I wouldn't, wherever you can see, to be honest. So in front of Chris would probably work out well. If you need to charge your Chromebook, there's a power thing right there. All right, so Kanan asked me, could Britain not fight back? Well, they didn't have a very big air force. The British didn't. The Royal, they were called the Royal Air Force, RAF. And so they actually had to ask the United States for planes to fight Germany in the air. And this is known as the Battle for Britain, okay? If you're taking notes, you want to know what's on your exam, or if you have the note sheet downloaded, the Battle for Britain was fought over the skies. And the United States helped the British Air Force try to combat German bombing raids. I'm gonna go ahead and skip that for now. Some of you maybe have seen the movie Dunkirk before, came out a few years ago. But if you look at this map right here, after the Nazis invaded France, the entire English army, okay, 300,000 soldiers, because they didn't have a huge army in England. 300,000 soldiers were trapped on the beaches between Belgium and France, mostly in a city called Dunkirk. And Hitler, this is his biggest mistake, number one. He let his troops take a week break. It's called a furlough in military terms. And it's what you do is you give your soldiers a break because they work so hard for so long. So you tell them, okay, you can pause for a week, drink some beer, hang out, and then we're going to start it up again, okay? Well, that allowed the British, they didn't have any military vessels, so a bunch of British fishing boats, people in like anything from like 17-foot fishing boats to 40-foot cargo boats, went and saved the entire British army from defeat. That allowed the British army to retreat or to come back to Britain and recoup and try to fight against the Nazis. This is a pretty famous poster. And it kind of says like, now Britain is all alone because their common ally was France at this point, and France was done. And so does anybody know who this is a picture of? Pretty famous character in history. Winston Churchill, exactly. And he's saying, hold the line. What he's trying to tell his people to do is don't quit. If you quit, Britain is going to fall and Nazis are going to take over, arguably one of the most historical countries in the world. The sun never sets on the British Empire. Maybe you've heard that term before. And so that's what these posters, some of you maybe have seen the posters. What's another famous one? Political poster. I used to have one in my room. Keep calm and what? Keep calm and carry on. Have you ever seen those posters before? People make a lot of goofy t-shirts that say keep calm and do something weird. That's a very famous, people make shirts and all sorts of stuff out of it today, but that is originally a World War II propaganda poster made by the British to make sure that the Germans couldn't take over Britain. Okay, here's a picture in Britain. They have underground, what's called like a train station or like a subway, as you'd call it in New York, but they call it the tube. And this is people sleeping in the tube. Why would people be sleeping in the tube? Anybody have a guess? Well, because the Germans started off by bombing like factories and military bases and runways and whatnot. But then they started bombing churches. They started bombing hospitals, apartments, neighborhoods, anything that they could to get the British to quit. And so this is one of the most iconic pictures of World War II, and that's you've got all these people sleeping underneath the ground on train tracks. Chris, do you think you could show them how to join Nearpod? And so again, let's see if I have any other pictures. I don't right here, but when I was in London after college, you can go to their war offices. They still have them. They had to put all of their war offices where they were conducting war in Africa and their troops all over in the South Pacific, and all of their offices were underground in a basement that looked like a normal house. They had to hide it. It was all secret. So you walk into what you think is an apartment complex, and you go down the stairs instead of going up. You enter through this door that's like this thick, like 6 inches thick, made of metal, and all of a sudden there's like a massive entire basement, all like maps, pictures, and that was where Churchill and his team conducted the army or conducted war from there, because if they conducted it above ground, they were going to get bombed. No questions asked. Can you imagine a country the size of like Texas, not even as big as Texas? Imagine, let's say more like Ohio, size of Ohio, 1 million tons of bombs a day for months straight. Would you be scared out of your mind? Yeah. So the bombing raids, the sirens would go off all the time whenever there was a bombing raid. So imagine sitting in school. You think coronavirus, the pandemic, was scary because we don't know where it's floating around. Imagine sitting in school, bombing raids, the sirens go off. You're sitting there thinking, holy crap, what am I going to do? What if a bomb gets dropped in my school? Because they targeted civilians. Okay? And the bombing was way more complex in World War II than it was in World War I. Much bigger bombs, a lot more could be, dropped at one time. And they had laser scopes to identify exactly where they wanted to drop those bombs. So this is called the Lend-Lease policy. American President FDR basically said this time around, we are going to lend weapons to Great Britain instead of saying that they had to pay us back. We were just straight up, the United States said, we're just going to straight up give you this because we didn't want to get involved in what happened after World War I, where everybody owed us money and it caused our banks to crash. Remember that? Yeah, Great Depression, that whole thing. Okay. And so this time around, they said, you know what? We're going to just give you stuff. And so they started giving them planes. They gave them 40 ships. The US gave 40 big ships, see these destroyers right here, to Great Britain for free to fight against the Nazis. Also, this is one of the most unknown but heroic things that happened in the war is FDR, who's the president of the United States, Winston Churchill, who's the prime minister of England, met on a boat off of Canada called Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. They met on a boat. So two of the most important people in the world, leading the world against the Nazis, met on a boat in the Atlantic Sea, and that's where they did a church service. They sang the Marines hymn. I don't know if you've heard that before. Ever heard that song before? Well, they sang the Marines hymn, and then they shook hands, and that's called the Lend-Lease policy. And if a torpedo would have hit that boat, like a German submarine, or their espionage system would have figured that out and sunk that ship, you would have had the two world leaders dead on the spot. Pretty risky. Pretty not smart, in my opinion. But again, I'm not in charge of the world. So, Hitler then, because he can't take over Britain, okay, which would have given him access to a lot of resources, he turns around and he decides to stab Stalin, who's the leader of Russia, in the back, and he invades Russia. Okay, take a look at this. Remember, he had said he wouldn't, but he called it Operation Barbarossa, named after the Holy Roman Emperor Friedrich Barbarossa, the guy who died, if you remember right, during the Crusades, in 3 feet of water wearing his chainmail. But he, it's the largest military operation in the world. 4 million soldiers, 4 million Germans on an 1,800-mile long front invaded Russia. And when they invaded Russia, what did they do? Were they nice to the Russians? No, they terrorized the Russians, and they again did a lot of immoral acts to their women. They burned down a lot of their houses, and the Jews that were there were sent to ghettos. All right, which is a very small, concentrated group of people that had walls around the cities. And so as the Germans got further and further into Russia, more and more Jews were exposed. And Russia did exactly what they did against Napoleon. They just kind of quit. They just marched backwards. And the Germans got basically right outside of Moscow and Stalingrad, which is, we'll talk about the Battle of Stalingrad in a little bit. Okay, so if you look up here, you'll see Germany kind of had Russia surrounded, and they were trying to get the army group in the south. That's the bottom one. They were trying to get to the oil fields in the Ukraine because Germany needed oil in order to be able to continue their war. All right, so we're gonna get to this day and then we'll be done. So I need somebody. Can somebody on Zoom read this quote for me, please? This is kind of, there's a question involved with this. Anybody on Zoom want to read?
The entire quote.
Michael, you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. One should keep in mind that it was in fact Japan, not China, that benefited from these countries' support. Japan's primary source of raw materials like petroleum and scrap iron for its war in China, of high-end technology like machine tools, was the United States. In 1938, the United States, 57.1%. The United Kingdom and its empire, Malaya, Canada, India, Australia, 20.7%. And the Dutch East Indies, 8.6%. Supplied 86.4% of Japan's imported war materials. The United States produced 60% of the world's oil. The Dutch East Indies less than 10%. 55% of Japan's oils came from the United States, 14% came from the Soviet Union, and 10% from the Dutch Indies.
Okay, so remember how I told you that Japan invaded China, right? I showed you about the rape of Nanking on Thursday of last week. So the United States put their foot down and they froze all the bank accounts the Japanese had in the United States. They said, we will not sell anything to a country that's at war. And that's why they gave the British materials, because the United States was trying to stay out of this war. They said it's not our problem. The Japanese needed the United States' oil and supplies in order to continue to grow at the pace they were growing. So when the United States froze Japanese assets, what do you think happened? What do the Japanese want to do? Come on, folks. Wake up. Kyla, take your headphones out and actually listen. Promise you, you're not going to get this in another class, and your kids are going to ask you someday, and you're going to go, huh? I don't know. Okay? Look, why do you think the United States was attacked by the Japanese? Common sense, Luke. Because we're not giving them supplies. We weren't allowing them to buy our supplies. And we froze their bank accounts in the United States, meaning we didn't give them access to their money. We literally just did the same thing to Iran last week. It's going to be very interesting to see if there's a war with Iran the next 5 years in the United States versus Iran, because it's looking that way. And again, hindsight's always 100%, but that's, again, what it looks like. So based on the previous reading, let's get this done quick so we can watch the video. Why did Japan attack the United States at Pearl Harbor based on the previous reading? What do you think? Okay, go ahead and put in your response, please. You only need maybe 5 to 10 words. All right, so a adequate response would be the U.S. froze their bank account and stopped trading with them. Japan wasn't getting its supplies from the U.S. like it used to. So only 78%. Japan's oil source was the U.S. and we weren't allowing them to buy oil from us. Yeah, if you're an island country, you need oil, right? So the United States the United States was attacked by the Japanese on this date. Put this down in your notes. This is a question on your final exam if you want to get your grade up. December 7th, 1941. Okay, take a look. I took this picture when I was at Pearl Harbor 3 years ago, okay? On the right is the amount of ships and submarines and whatnot the U.S. had in the Pacific. On the left is the amount of ships that the Japanese had. And it includes the amount of men, Marines, or soldiers. What do you notice here from this picture? Yeah, the United States was way outnumbered and not prepared for war in the Pacific Ocean. And so we were literally sitting ducks, especially at a place called Hawaii. If you've ever heard of Hawaii, it's a state. And there, the United States had their main military base in the Pacific Ocean. And you can see the Japanese had way more resources than the US did. Okay. If you want to get to the idea of how a Japanese soldier, how their mindset worked, take a look at this quote. The objective of day-to-day training was to fit man and plane together until each fighter pilot knew and understood his craft and could put it through the paces as a jockey manages his racehorse. So basically, the men who were flying these planes on the day that Pearl Harbor was attacked were there to either win or die. No questions asked. All right. Special torpedoes were made. Again, I took these pictures in the Pearl Harbor Museum. I'm not making this up. So if you ever get a chance to watch the movie, maybe we'll watch it at the end of class. You'll see after your final. But you'll see right here that they added a second part to this torpedo, these little wings, because Pearl Harbor is a shallow water harbor. It was not deep enough to drop torpedoes from a plane. And so they built these contraptions so that the torpedoes would hit the bottom and then continue to go forward instead of hitting the bottom and just exploding, like hitting the seafloor. And you can tell really easily right here, this is one that they pulled up. This is what Pearl Harbor, this is what it looks like right here. Okay, this is Hawaii. What do you notice from this picture? It looks like vacation paradise, right? It is. Okay, so soldiers who got stationed in Hawaii, literally, I went to the beach club. They have an officers beach club on Diamond Head Beach in Honolulu. It's the most famous beach in Hawaii. And there they have tiki bar, live music. People are drinking beer and slushies. And if you got put in Hawaii at this time, if you're in the United States Army, literally it was thought of as a vacation. When it was super obvious to the rest of the world that the United States was going to get attacked. When they went back and looked at Hawaii and Pearl Harbor, they found Japanese submarines in Pearl Harbor and all around Hawaii. In the harbor. You know that? 2- and 3-man submarines, these little things, were stationed there. And Japan had been planning this attack for 3 years. The U.S. was played totally stupid. This is what Pearl Harbor looks like. The reason why this is where the U.S. kept their ships was it was, again, shallow, and it allowed for them to dock all of their ships. Why is this stupid? Look at how the ships are all sitting in a line. Do you see that? So when the Japanese attacked, it was like plucking apples off an apple tree in the fall. Is that hard? No, you just grab them. They're everywhere. Go to an apple farm. The Japanese had a free-for-all and basically could do whatever they wanted, and there was nothing that could stop them. Okay, here's a picture, an actual picture. I've got a video for you. We're gonna play this and then we'll be done with class. This is the attack. Happened on a Sunday morning. If you don't know what Sunday mornings are in the military, people are half-staffed. Half the military gets a day off on Sunday. The other half the military gets a day off on Wednesday. So you only work 6 days a week. And so they attacked in this vacation paradise a bunch of troops who didn't know it was coming. They never officially declared war, meaning the U.S. didn't know this was going to happen. And so this is what would anger the United States and wake up the United States military. Okay, here's this is pretty good. This is from the video Pearl Harbor, but this is the attack scene. It gets a little gory, okay? It's Hollywood though. But you can imagine a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-old boys who thought they were on vacation here, and they wake up to this. All right, the bell's gonna ring here shortly. Sorry we didn't get to the end of it. But if you look, the Japanese had 359 planes and only lost 29. The United States had 188 planes destroyed, 8 battleships damaged, 4 sunk, and the USS Arizona still sits today as a memorial to Pearl Harbor. It's still underneath the ground, and there's still oil that comes out of it. Chris, turn the light on here. That turned into, it's literally a underground tomb now, because there are still soldiers' bodies that are trapped in the boat. All right, we need to wipe down the desks. Those of you at home, hopefully you're following along on the study guide. Have a great rest of your day.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. See you, folks.